When I was going through these kind of experiences, it made me feel lost. It made me feel really unwanted at times.
There was one point when I lived in a tent in the middle of winter. It was the worstest part of my life. Having to go through that situation, it's unbelievable because you don't actually think anybody else is going through that.
Lost, I felt lonely, I had no one to go to.
Felt down every single day, felt like I couldn't go through with it.
It was horrible. I wasn't wanted, and the feeling of not being wanted, it's just not right, it's wrong.
I was in somebody else's space.
She told me to leave. She told me to leave.
I just ended up sitting on a bench.
My life felt like it was going round in circles.
I was in somebody else's space.
She told me to leave.
I just ended up sitting on a bench.
My life felt like it was going round in circles. Various times I've slept from like bus station to under bushes in a tent. It's not nice. Looking after my mum and stuff, that sort of took me away from like having real parents. It's like looking after me mum all the time, and I couldn't take it really. So I moved out, went to live with friends, and it didn't work out. And then I ended up in a tent for a couple of months in the middle of winter. Every morning I woke up, I used to say to myself, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that helped me through.
It all started mainly with family issues, me doing drugs, drinking. I got kicked out and I was homeless for about 6 months, but staying on friends' sofas. I didn't really go out there much into the society because I didn't really want to. By going to different places, it inspired me to make a difference and to try get myself back onto my own feet and sort myself out.
It all started when I was 14. I became homeless through a breakdown of relationship with my mum. At the time I was just like, I didn't really have any feelings. I was like all numb and didn't really know what to do.
What can I say? Sleeping rough nearly every night, going from different people's houses to other people's houses, camping, you name it.
Became homeless through lots of arguments at home, not getting on with my stepdad, having anger issues, just going through a bit of a rough patch. For me it was just not wanting to be at home, wanting to be away from it all the time, never wanting to be there, never getting on with anybody. I actually think it started when I was young, having no stable father figure ever, so I just sort of went off the rails as I grew up.
We're a very wealthy society in Britain, and the idea that we cannot make good crash facilities for young people who, if you like, fall on hard times, I think is a bit of a disgrace. I think this is a problem that people would prefer just to pretend doesn't exist. It's somebody else's problem. And until it becomes all our problem, we won't find an answer to your question, why doesn't everybody have shelter?
They don't really want to admit that it's happening. It's quite frustrating actually, because the amount of young people who do need help, young people who didn't have to be homeless, if the services had intervened earlier, then they probably would have been able to get around that mark.
I think everybody's got to take responsibility for youth homelessness, because it's not one person's problem, it's everybody's problem.
We've got a major issue with homelessness in Harrogate. Harrogate's a very expensive place for people to live, and house prices in Harrogate are still well above the national average.
Nationally, I noticed you talked about 70,000, but if you look at various estimates putting it at 200,000 to 300,000 being the real level of youth homelessness. We support 70 young people each year. Clearly the number of actual young homeless people is greater than that. There's a lot of concealed homelessness, a lot of sofa surfing going on, a lot of sharing with friends and so on.
The situation in Harrogate, with house prices being as they are, it's likely that there's going to be a problem with homelessness and youth homelessness for quite a while to come yet. We're never going to solve the problem, but that doesn't mean we can't get better and we can't improve.
The reason people become homeless is deep down problems which need to be sorted out.
With young people, it's inevitably family breakups, it's fallouts, it's mum getting remarried or a new partner coming in or dad getting a new partner coming in. And it's those sorts of issues which sometimes force teenagers out of their home.
I think the most common one from our point of view is family disputes.
Nobody knows what's behind a person's homelessness, and I think it's bad to judge. People are made homeless for very terrible reasons because they've had a terrible home life.
Really, accommodation's one part of what can be a much bigger issue.
I left home a number of times when I was a teenager. I was extremely difficult, but I came back. And I think that happens to a significant number of young people who do have great rows, who do pack a bag and walk out, and a few days later, a week later, they're back home. The situation has changed.
I care because I think you've got to care. I mean, at the end of the day, it can happen to anybody.
The other area that I'm particularly interested in is young people in particular who are also full-time carers. There is a growing incidence of young people who have become carers, who've dropped out of the education system early on, who eventually get to a point of crisis in their own life where they just can't cope anymore.
You're talking about people who've got a genuine need. You know, they're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. They genuinely haven't got anywhere to go through, no fault of their own, and it can be very difficult.
A lot of it is deep problems, such as they've got problems with their parents, they've got problems with school.
You've another group who actually think it's quite cool to leave home and that somebody will look after them.
mean, for young'uns making themselves like intentionally homeless, do you know what I mean? When there's no violence at home or out like that, it's a big mistake.
This isn't a bed of roses. This is a very, very difficult road to go down.
Do you know, the streets are rough and that now, do you know? A lot of violence and that, and I don't recommend it.
I'd say the majority of homeless people end up with like alcohol or drug dependencies, do you know what I mean?
Crime and that, they go into crime, don't they? They end up getting mixed up in the wrong crowd as well.
When somebody is homeless, a whole set of consequences, you know, follow from that.
Because they can't have somewhere to live, they haven't got an address, they can't get a job because they haven't got an address. And if they can't get a job, they can't get any money. It leads to all sorts of practical issues like that.
Every part of society has just left them, has just dropped them.
Young people, of course, are incredibly vulnerable because there's an awful lot of vultures out there, you know, that are very, very quick, you know, to seize. And if you're desperate, I think it's at that time where, you know, you actually give in.
A lot of young people think it's fairly easy to leave home and come up, you know, with quite a rude awakening once they do.
Homelessness can create a whole range of issues. Poor health and homelessness can go hand in hand, but really people's life chances can be so much affected. Their ability to access employment, education, training, I think forming relationships, I think can become difficult as well.
I mean, young'uns, when they get mixed up with some old uns in an hostel, they end up getting, you know, getting into a bad clique, wrong clique and that, and then they end up going from just being homeless, and then they end up starting being on drugs, and then, do you know what I mean?
It's true, without somewhere secure to live, it's very difficult to live any sort of secure life.
I've slept in skippers, do you know, like full of newspapers to keep warm and that, do you know? It's horrible. You once slept out cold, didn't you? And he woke up and he couldn't move. His total body was frozen, do you know what I mean?
I think it's easy to begin to get depressed at the situation that you're in, feeling real sort of ostracised by society and outside society and disconnected with it.
I've been doing Crash Pad for 6 months. I do enjoy doing it. It is challenging. Provide a safe bed, basically. That's all I can say. Breakfast, dinner and a safe bed to stay, and they can choose whether they use it or not. Hopefully we'll be able to support them in helping them move into independent accommodation.
What we're trying to achieve through mediation to enable the young person really to be able to openly express themselves, but equally for parents to be able to express themselves in a very equal and fair way, where there isn't the sort of power imbalance that so often happens within a family.
We're probably not going to be able to provide everybody with accommodation, but we can at least try and offer you some support and advice. What we're trying to focus on is trying to help people live with the pressures that they've got.
People can stay here for up to 6 weeks. Under special circumstances it can be rolled over for another 4 weeks. My own personal opinion is that children need boundaries to grow by and to live by, and I think if you provide boundaries you're providing a support system for people. That's what people like, in my experience. If there isn't a crash pod space, they go into bed and breakfast, usually, if there's a bed and breakfast available. I'm not sure what happens after that, to be quite honest with you.
No, I don't think there's enough awareness, not simply in Harrogate, but I don't think there is around the country.
Just ask for help. Don't go about it yourself thinking that you will be alright, because like I said, there's danger everywhere. Don't think that it's all good and that be, oh, I'm my own person, I can do what and come and go as I want.
When you get a young person in Crash Pad, even though there's boundaries to how long they're here, they actually see the workings of a family living a life, basically. And some of the people that come here haven't experienced just a family environment. It actually helps, I think. In bed and breakfast, they've just got themselves. No role models, no support if they need it. Even just being able to ask somebody if they want some help. They've got somebody here that they know they can talk to, whereas in a bed and breakfast they haven't.
What we feel is that we can only tackle homelessness by working in partnership with a whole range of agencies, like the County Council, like education, like the voluntary sector, It can be about giving people support to allow them to establish an independent life, as well as just giving them a roof over their head.
The first step really is to try and stop it happening in the first place.
I think it'd be much better, certainly from a mediation standpoint, to know of the problems that are arising within families before they actually get to the stage of the young person being asked to leave.
I'm very anxious to see that we actually start to engage with vulnerable youngsters so that we can actually talk some of these things through and prepare support plans rather than waiting for crisis to happen.
I don't actually feel that the 6 weeks is a long enough period. I think it would be better for 12 weeks, because I think it's very difficult to turn people around in 6 weeks. They're only just getting sort of sorted, and then they're moved on. And it, again, maybe not always into a good place. It can be sort of you chucked back into the big hole, if you like. I would prefer to see it being extended and give that person the opportunity to actually be a bit more sorted.
Too many youngsters end up in crisis where there was no need for that crisis to occur. I just think it's a terrific campaign. Education, talking to people who have experience, talking to young people who've actually been through that is the best way of actually engaging with young people, because you have to make them think.
I think the campaign is going to make a real big difference.
You doing this and actually being young as well and speaking about it, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a brilliant idea.
What you have to do is to find some way to connect.
We can't start early enough, I think, in raising awareness about this issue.
There's nothing better than actually sharing your story with others.
I love the fact that it is shoving homelessness in people's faces and making them realise the truth behind it and making them realise that this is actually happening.
It should open people's eyes.
Yeah,
I mean,
if
you're educating kids about being homeless, they're gonna think about it. I mean, I open the see us and listen to what we have to say. I mean, it's not a pretty picture being homeless.
It's brushed under the mat, and a lot of people don't want to know about it. A lot of people don't want to admit that young people are on the streets and they have problems because of that.
This campaign can open kids' eyes and make them aware that it's, not fun being homeless.
Raising the awareness of youth homelessness, I think it's very valuable indeed. Make people aware of what help is out there.
I think it's good to raise people's awareness, because I think people sit in their settees watching television and don't actually know what's going on. The fact that you're doing all this now and you bring it to people, it's going to make them more aware of why you're doing it, and that these people on the streets are homeless for a reason and need help.
I was in somebody else's space. I was in somebody else's space.
I felt like it was going around in circles.
This project means a lot to me. It can hopefully be really, really powerful and prove that there are young people that are homeless.
This project means a lot because it opens your eyes to other people that are homeless as well as yourself, to make you realise that you're not alone and there is light at the end of the tunnel. I hope the campaign gets its point across.
It means a lot getting people to realise what people actually go through. I hope it'll make people in power actually realise what they should do and that there is things that they need to do.
Doing this is going to raise the awareness of youth homelessness. And there isn't enough out there for young people, so they know where to turn.
Hopefully it'll inspire the younger generation. They don't think that they'll end up being homeless, and when it actually happens to you, that's when it hits you bad. Anybody can become homeless.
I think think I got through it just by depending on my friends and having really good friendships there for me. I think if I didn't have that and my gran and my grandpa, I don't know if I'd be here now.
My advice I'd give is stay strong-headed, don't just go off the rails because you've got an excuse. That's just going to make it worse. If you stay real to yourself and try and alert important people to your situation to get the help that you need.
I'm hoping to go to university and become a primary school teacher.
Hopefully, good job, a lot of money.
Being a youth development worker, writing a book about homelessness and prison.
I want to give other people the chance and the options to do something. I'm hoping I can make more of a difference in the future.
I'd like to see myself helping other people like myself, but who knows?
I hope it makes an impact in people's lives and makes them realise that homelessness is a bad situation to be in. But once you've actually started to get your life back on track and you're getting help by different associations, you actually get inspired to do something with your life.
Close.